Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement. You're live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Jeff Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services. Our offices are located in beautiful, quickly warming, sunny downtown Olivet, Missouri. I'm a 40-plus year veteran of the financial services area, a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And I'm joined this week and every single week, as long as they're willing to show up, with my crew, my very favorite oldest prodigal daughter, Aaron Lapidus, who is also a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager, and Rob Markham, our life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
Good morning.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan that has several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate. Second is to deliver a reliable stream of income, one that they can count on, so they can do all the things they'd like to do during retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, without Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Gang, again, good morning.
Good morn.
Another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Saturday, my favorite day. We get 2 hours on with our listeners, folks that are currently clients and potential clients, because all of our new clients are folks that are like you. They are our listeners. They're 55 and older. They'd like to retire, or they're already retired. And as Aaron mentioned, our goal is to create a game plan for them for a fun and hopefully financially successful and worry-free retirement. We do have a lot of things to talk about, as usual. We will have our Medicare expert.
Actually, our Medicare coach.
Coach, thank you. Our Medicare coach, fascinating, fabulous Frank, who will be joining us in the second hour. So make sure you get those Medicare questions ready to go.
Very cool.
In the 10 o'clock hour. But before that, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. As I've said for 17 years, we always have a lot of things on our mind. What's important is what's on yours. So give us a call. We'd love to hear from you today.
And there are many ways you can keep in touch with us throughout the week. If you miss us on not Saturday morning, you can log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click on the Contact Us button, send us an email, request a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. Or you can click on the lower left-hand side of the screen in the pop-up box that appears. It says, sign up for our newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner. We provide it every single month. You can also download previous newsletters on our website. Rob, do you want to give us the April newsletter scoop?
Absolutely. And our first story is about how the changing shelter costs influence inflation. People may not realize that, but shelter costs make up a fully one-third component output of the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. So
a lot of people don't realize that CPI number is weighted which really impacts what it looks like, right? Because when we go to the grocery store, you see, like, gosh, these prices are up far more than 5% or 6%.
Absolutely, and shelter costs are the biggest component of the metrics and how they measure CPI, so that's an interesting article.
And, like, as interest rates have risen, people are less compelled to buy homes, so that gives landlords the opportunity to raise rent because renting is now more in demand. So until those things shift.
Might be a minute.
Might be a minute.
Our next article is about Social Security and the benefits it offers from the time you're born all the way up through old age.
So not everyone's eligible for every benefit, but everyone's eligible for at least one of these benefits.
This is one program that I think everyone has grown to love.
Getting your own money back.
Same as it ever was. And our next article is diversifying with market caps, using company size to diversify your portfolio. Very interesting article.
So talking about different size companies, not just domestically, but internationally, and how that can impact the diversification of your portfolio, right?
Absolutely.
Great.
And our last article, which is really, really great, and especially this time of year, keep an eye out for IRS-related scams. I mean, you always need to be on the lookout for these kind of situations, but especially around tax time, because that's when the experts say they like to strike.
And I think we talked about this briefly last week, but the IRS only contacts you in one way, by mail.
I thought you were going to say a knock at the front door.
It feels like that when you get the envelope and you're looking at it. Sometimes those they all have the government seal from the IRS on them. They have contact information of a phone number that you can call, information as to why they are contacting you. You're not going to get an email. You're not going to get a phone call. You're not going to get a knock at the door. So any type of contact that you receive from who claims to be an IRS agent, it's only going to come by letter, and you don't get a specific agent assigned to you at the moment of your letter. You got to get way further in the process for that to happen.
I can't tell you how many phone calls I've gotten from people pawning themselves off as IRS agents, and it's embarrassing for them but there are certain people that will get ensnared in this, and that's unfortunate. So you definitely have to be on the lookout for that. Speaking
of the IRS, we have our first text question.
And our texter writes, I understand you really don't give tax advice, but this question you may be able to answer. This is regards to a 1099-B selling of stocks. Is that only taxable for the transaction year only if you took a distribution or any time, even if you put it somewhere else in your portfolio?
I love our texters. They're clever. Wouldn't it be great if you only had to pay taxes when you actually distributed the money? Unfortunately, if you've made a stock sale in an after-tax account or any type of security sale in an after-tax account where you have realized a gain, that's what happened. You realized the gain. So even if you reinvest it, even if you leave it in your portfolio as cash, you are going to have to pay the taxes in that year, which is why you received that 1099-B reflecting that. Now, you don't pay. What is reflected on there is the taxable amount. It's not the taxes you owe. You'll need to compute that with the rest of your taxes in order to determine what that liability is. And this is also true of dividends when they are received. Many people have their portfolios set up so they are reinvesting dividends over time if they're not currently using them for income. You still pay taxes on that dividend and also on interest if you've accumulated it in after-tax accounts every single year, even if you haven't spent the money yet.
Yes.
Well,
I think what's important also to remember is that the law does permit you to offset short-term capital losses with short-term capital gains.
And also
long-term losses with long-term gains. And we know that if your long-term losses exceed $3,000, those can be carried forward to future years and used then.
And only in increments of $3,000.
Right. Again, but you also still get to, if you want, for example, let's take last year. Many folks had situations where their stocks went down. Okay?
Right.
If they sold them during that year for rebalancing or other purposes, let's just assume you sold some shares of stock, and you at that time you experienced a $30,000 loss.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, once you picked yourself off the floor, what you're able to do is during that tax year, if you were to make other sales for stocks where you had gains, you could offset. If they were long-term gains, you could offset those long-term gains.
And long-term gains is if you hold a security for 1 year and 1 day.
Exactly. So let's set the same example. Let's assume that stock A had a $30,000 loss, stock B had a $20,000 gain. You could take that full gain and offset it against that loss. You'd have a $10,000 carry forward. So let's say we go then to this year, God willing, God's listening.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say we have an up year,
mm-hmm.
where you decide to sell a appreciated stock. That $10,000 that you carried over from last year as long-term capital loss.
You get to use $3,000.
No, you get to use the full $10,000 if you have that much of a gain, and if there's still any left of loss,
you get to carry that forward too.
That $3,000 you can then use on your return for that year, and then carry any balance forward. So, capturing losses is not a bad thing.
But they call that tax harvesting sometimes?
Well, and usually with tax harvesting, you have something on the other side of the ledger offsetting that.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't immediately, it's cool because in the future, you can do that. And I'm sure many folks are going, yeah, Jeff, I understand, because 3-4 years ago, when we had large run-ups in the market, what happened was folks made sales to capture gains, and maybe if they had losses in their portfolio, they could offset them, or if they had a loss carry forward, they were then able to wipe that out. So it's cool. So, again, the tax code can be your friend. Use a professional to help you use it.
And this seems to be quite frequent during volatile years because people are making decisions or they're being advised potentially that, maybe selling some of this appreciated stock to protect against future losses is a good idea, but the trade-off there is you may still have some taxable gains even if you've seen in that year depreciation in the asset.
And again, what we're talking strictly about is assets that are outside of retirement plan accounts, because inside of retirement plan accounts you don't recognize gain or loss, you only recognize income at the time of distribution because we're talking about pre-tax accounts.
Right, which means you'll only receive that 1099-B or the 1099-DIV, which is the dividends and interest portion of that same document, for your after-tax accounts.
Yeah, I want to mention something here also, which was a little unusual. Like many people, use TurboTax.
Yes.
Okay, and there are other programs, but they happen to be the most highly publicized, maybe trusted program that's out there for individuals.
Not an endorsement, just a comment.
No, exactly. And in the preparation of returns, I know that, as an example, last year I made some sales in my personal account.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize, and I made more than one.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that what TurboTax did was that they summarized my 1099 instead of actually listing the individual transactions.
Ah.
And when we sent our return in, which like your mom likes to do, like on January 1st, but I had her hold off.
Just a few minutes.
Exactly. We sent it in, but guess what? Our immediate response was, by the way, now we want the detail.
They want the actual statement versus what was plugged in because TurboTax just offset everything for you, looking like it's zeroed out.
Well, what they wanted was the detail. So there were one or two options. Option one was you have to fill out the form in detail,
mm-hmm.
doing each individual transaction.
Yikes.
What we did was we made a copy of the 1099.
And submitted that.
And submitted that with the form that was required. So... And it does seem kind of silly when you think about it because we know that the custodian is submitting the 1099 for you. You're just getting a copy.
I was just thinking that the government gets a copy. So if you have, one of the 80,000 IRS agents that they just plan to hire, take a look at your return, they see your stack of 1099s. They also see a copy of your W-2, your any
Yes.
other tax document, your K-1s, whatever you have compiled on your side, the government received a copy of that, which is why if you miss one of those documents, you get a letter after you file your return. Hey, we see this other 1099 you didn't reflect. The only way that they could know that is because everyone that sent you a 1099 also was required to send it off to the IRS.
Yes, so it is what it is.
Right.
Mom wasn't real happy, but guess what? Well, I mean, it's like, why are you making me do duplicate work? Well, the answer is it doesn't really matter what. If that's what they want.
We got to play in their playground.
Don't mess, as President George W. Bush once said, don't mess with Texas. Okay, you just don't mess with the Internal Revenue. But at the same time, what's important here, I think the point we're trying to make is, there is a playbook. And, losses aren't the worst thing to happen because you do have an opportunity to offset them in the future with gains that you've received, which is kind of cool. And again, this is long-term capital losses, not anything else.
It would be nice if they would adjust that $3,000 number, make it a little bit bigger.
You mean adjust for inflation?
Well, I mean, everything is going up, everything. So why?
Well,
I mean, that's been stuck at $3,000 for a good long time.
At the end of the day, my opinion is it would be nice if we went to a flat percentage tax and got rid of all this deductions, exclusions, denials, whatever you want to call them. But just make it easy. I mean, have everybody pay. That's what we call fairness. Pick a percentage, 20%, 25%. I don't care. Just let's have the number, spit it out there. And frankly, look at all the people look at all the time that could be saved. I mean,
And money.
exactly, because, we're spending, many folks, we're talking about hours and hours, sometimes days, in preparation of returns. Doesn't make any sense. Let's use it for something more productive, maybe leisure. At the same time, I hate to say it, but maybe half the TV, I guess they call them commentators, and that's really all they are today. They'd lose their jobs because they wouldn't have anything to complain about. Talk about fair share. I mean, fair share is, to me, fairness is you go into the grocery store and everybody pays the same amount of money for a gallon of milk. That's fairness. The tax code is not fairness. It's a progressive system. And I don't have a problem with it.
Oh, my God, the calls and texts are about to flood in. Don't worry, he's not running for office.
Well, no, listen, you want somebody who's all about greed for you.
Absolutely.
And that's what our job is to try to make you money at the same time. Fairness is...
Fair is what you pay to ride the bus.
There you go. Everybody pays the same.
I'm greedy for you. That's fire. That's campaign fire.
There you go. And you heard it right here.
That's right.
And
exactly.
We've got one more comment on the 1099B. It's hard, the commenter writes, it's hard to understand the 1099B statement. I guess it's the quote-unquote unadjusted gain and loss, close quote.
Nice comment. We'll agree with you.
We'll definitely agree, which is why, either consult with a tax professional if you're unsure before you file your return, or if you're using a program, usually they're going to indicate to you what boxes they want from each form to complete, which will help guide you to the correct answers. So, like the texter mentioned, we don't give tax advice, but we can certainly comment slightly.
Yes, and our comment is our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the slowly heating up KTRS text line.
Let's take our first break of the hour before we get into our first topic.
Don't touch
and
that
your
dial.
questions.
We'll be right back
with some more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
I'm your handyman.
After more than 25 years of being your handyman on the Big 550's Inside Out Show, John Shea is putting away his compound miter saw, his 25-foot tape measure, and spirit level to start enjoying a well-deserved retirement. Thank you, John, for sharing your many years of construction expertise and finally teaching McGraw the proper way to install a GFCI. Happy retirement, John, from your still working family right here at the Big 550 KTRS.
Are you tired of high prices, high pressure, and high anxiety, looking for siding, windows, doors, and decking? Silly ads claiming to give you 2 free windows, 50% off labor, or no interest payments? My grandson Elijah says,
Are you kidding me?
let's talk about exterior building products that are durable, attractive, and energy efficient that increase your home's value and saves your hard-earned money. My name is Julius Korsanik. I'm celebrating 50 years in this industry. Our local and family business is Wholesale Siding Depot. Please visit our website at wsdepot.com. That's wsdepot.com. For name brand windows from Anderson and Viwinco, Certainty Vinyl Siding, Provia and Masonite doors, AZAC, Envision, Fortress, and Trex decking, to name a few. We also offer a free contractor referral service to take care of your installation and labor needs. Keep it local and professional. Please visit wsdepot.com. That's wsdepot.com.
Do you like antiques?
Sure do, sonny boy. I married one.
I mean antiques and collectibles like those you'd find at the Belleville Flea Market. It's the largest antique flea market in the St. Louis area, with over 600 vendors each day in the air-conditioned exposition center. And there are more collectibles and bargains outside. It's Saturday and Sunday, starting at 9 a.m. at the Belle Claire Fairgrounds in Belleville, Illinois, Route 13 and 159. For more info, call 618-233-0052 or bcfairgrounds.net. Make it an antique and collectible weekend at the Belleville Flea Market.
Hey, it's John Carney once again, popping in to talk Allen Roofing. Sure, we've talked about replacing your roof or doing your siding or your gutter, tuck pointing, stuff like that. But here's something we don't get into much. They are hiring. Think about this. A new job, a new trade, even if you don't have experience, they are also training people. If you've already been in the home improvement business, they can advance your career. The compensation is competitive. There's great benefits, retirement programs. This is a rare opportunity. So yeah, back to home improvement. If you need your roof taken care of, done. Siding, tuck pointing, gutters, done. But a career also available to you right now. It only makes sense to use a company that's been in business for half a century. Visit aroofing.net/KTRS to get a free assessment of what you need or apply for a job and join a great team at Allen Roofing.
Isn't it great when you get to go shopping at work? Wendy and I are taking our show on the road to Hearth and Soul in Ladue on Monday, April 17th.
It is a dream come true for owner Susie Bush Transu, and it will be for you too if you stop in to shop. It feels like visiting a friend's home with a women's closet, a men's closet, a kitchen, and a library. You'll love it.
Come join us Monday, April 17th from 10 a.m. to noon at Hearth and Soul, 9640 Clayton Road in Ladue, or listen in right here on the Big 550.
Hey, Josh here for Dogtown Pizza, and we love hearing from you. Mike just tried the hot wing pizza and was bowled over. And Pat just had a pepperoni and sausage, and now he's hooked. Not to mention the listener who's been eating Dogtown Pizza 12 days straight. And with 11 different varieties, you know they've tried them all. Dogtown Pizza, 15 fresh years in St. Louis. And let us know, what's your favorite Dogtown?
Come on, start already! Come on, you frigid flabbergasted.
Is it time to make a change with your lawn equipment? Hi, this is Frank Blair from Schnarr's Hardware. The next time you're ready to do lawn work, have the next best thing to a professional lawn crew waiting for you. Reach for the tools they rely on. Echo Outdoor Power Equipment. For power and durability, season after season, Echo Power Tools have been the choice of professionals for years. Every engine carries the highest performance rating available, and every product is backed by the industry's only 5-year consumer warranty. And in the unlikely event your Echo sounds like the beginning of this commercial, bring it to us. We're a servicing dealer. So come to Schnarr's Hardware and let us help you put an Echo in your garage. We're open 7 days a week, so call us at 314-993-0910 in Ladue or 314-961-4522 in Webster Groves. For address, hours, or to shop online, go to schnarrs.com. It's easy when you start at Schnarrs.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back here on the Big 550 KTRS. You're nice. I can't help it if the microphone falls apart. What the hell?
You could be here, you could be in California, just cannot get it to work properly.
That was just a great thing. You take it over, babe.
I'll take the calm. Why, thank you. Oof. Goodness. things are falling apart here at KTRS, but we aren't.
Okie doke.
Well, why don't we kick things off with, as we wait for your calls and texts, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Let's chat about, I cannot see, James and Joanne.
And James and Joanne stopped in for a coaching session this week. They're both in their early 60s and starting to think about retirement. They each own 2 20-year level term insurance policies with a face amount of $300,000. Their premiums are a combined $700. The policies have been enforced.
$700 annually?
Yes.
Okay.
The policies have been enforced for almost 20 years now.
Okay.
And they originally purchased the policies to protect their growing family against, obviously, an untimely death. The death benefits could be used to replace one of the other's incomes or pay off the new mortgage obligation for the surviving spouse. But what they really wanted to know was, how much insurance do we really need to have at this point in our lives? And, you know, over the last 20 years, their financial situation has changed quite a bit. Their 2 grown children have moved out of the house. Their mortgage on their house has been eliminated. And they've lived long enough to accumulate substantial assets, especially IRA accounts.
Like many have in the past. So, we discussed the new IRA inheritance tax law changes, and under the new rules, and we've talked about this quite frequently because this is one of the most substantial changes to the tax code that we've experienced in the last 10 years. As opposed to having the option for non-spousal beneficiaries of IRA assets to take distributions over the course of their life using their age versus the individual that they inherited those IRA assets from. Now the IRS is requiring that those inherited IRAs, the traditional IRAs, which would be taxable, have to be liquidated over a 10-year period. The rule is true of Roth IRA assets as well, except for those assets aren't taxable to beneficiaries. So really what we're focusing on here is the tax liability that's been created by the federal government that could be significantly more substantial than in the past. We could be looking at over a 30% tax on some of these inherited assets at this point.
Yeah, this was kind of important because the 2 of them had accumulated about $1 million in IRA assets. And it's not unreasonable to assume that their children would inherit a substantial portion of those assets. Probably, let's assume at this point, split in half, $500,000 each. And the federal tax liability could run as much as 30% or $150,000 each. This sort of strays away from the original question, which is how much life insurance I have, or do I need
to keep?
Do I need to keep? But in reality, this is why we're talking to our clients. We're looking at our clients' current contracts because though the need to create capital for a surviving spouse is not there anymore per se.
Or, right, either an income or to pay off a debt.
Paying the tax bill or maybe helping and pay the tax bill for Uncle Sam, that's really where it was at for them. And we queried them, is it important to you? And if so, how important is it to you to assist or actually make sure that this tax liability is paid for so that this $1 million of assets could pass on to those children?
So how does that work?
Well, what if we were to retain one of these policies and use the tax-free death benefits to help pay the taxes due on the IRA assets for the children? So we can still pass those assets on intact, but instead of using the life insurance, like your dad was saying, to pay for the mortgage or to replace someone's salaries, we're just repurposing it in a way so that your assets are moving on intact as opposed to having the government take out 30%.
And Rob, I know that you had, you were recommending that Joanne, the spouse, who is not yet 65, was eligible to convert the contract under the conversion privilege in the contract because, again, she hadn't reached the age 65, which is usually a crossover point for the insurance companies. At the same time, we do realize that female rates are 5 years younger than the same male rates at those ages. And so assuming that everything else being equal in terms of underwriting, health risk-wise, etc., having the contract retained on Joanne's life really made the most sense.
It really did. And, the conversion privilege, it really is a privilege because you're not going to need any new health underwriting. The policy is based, and this is really crucial, on your age 20 years ago when you first bought the term convertible policy, not on your age now. And like you said, female rates are priced 5 years younger than male rates for the same contract, so it would be cheaper all around to have it on her rather than her husband. So that's what ultimately I suggested, and Joanne would be the owner of the new policy, and her 2 children would be the primary beneficiaries. At Joanne's death, the children receive $300,000 income tax-free. They then apply that money to pay the taxes due on the IRA assets.
I mean, this is a really great idea for a couple of reasons. One, we're repurposing a contract that already existed. Now, there's still probably going to be a premium associated, especially with the conversion, so we would want to compare that. But if you're comparing, a 30% tax liability for your children versus paying, if the other alternative that we've heard discussed quite frequently is doing Roth conversions over the course of your life in order to mitigate tax liability for your children when you pass those assets on. Because like we discussed, Roth IRA assets are not taxable to your children as long as those Roths have been in existence for 5 years, so on and so forth. But they're still you're looking at that point a 30% tax liability as you do these conversions over time versus what is the annualized premium of your new life insurance policy. Comparing those two numbers is going to be an important component, but I could go ahead and guess that
let's give an example.
Let's give an example.
Yeah, Rob and I met with somebody last week. They were approximately 70 years old. And for the female insured that we were looking at, just assuming non-smoker standard rates, $100,000 contract. The price of that was approximately $3,600 per year. So if we take a Roth conversion at a 30% rate, as an example, what you're looking at is if you're converting, let's say, $300,000 of assets, cost you $100,000. Compare that to the $3,000 premium. I mean, there's just no real comparison. How long does it take at a $3,000 premium to equal $100,000 of taxes? It takes over 30 years. Well, we know that the break-even isn't there. So if you're healthy and if you're working with an advisor that is in a position to make these types of recommendations, what I would say is certainly something to consider.
Absolutely. And you know what? We have a few tax questions on deck. Let's go to our caller.
Chris, good morning.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I have just a quick question for you. In regards to, I got a side little job going where I'm getting 1099, but what I noticed is I'm getting it's a job where you get a flat rate for the work. So I'm getting that flat rate, but I noticed there's nothing coming out of for taxes or whatnot. Is there something I can do with that employer to get some taken out so I don't get hit too hard at the end of the year? So I'll hang up and listen. Thank you for your time.
You're very
welcome.
Thank
you, Chris.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, there's no this employer is attempting to get around FICA because we know that FICA you pay half, the employer pays half. By giving to you as a 1099 as an independent contractor, what's happening is you're responsible for withholding the FICA taxes
for both,
right?
Because you're the employer and the employee.
Yeah, and what happens is it isn't double of what you would pay, but it's more than just your normal portion. What I would suggest is you should be able to go to your employer and ask them to do some federal or state withholding, understanding and recognizing that you're still going to be subject to the FICA. What I'd also do is, you may already know this. How much of your work do you really do for this employer? Is this something where, frankly, you should really be considered a part-time employee as compared to a independent contractor? The rules here are pretty clear, but are certainly subject to interpretation.
And if your employer says that they won't do that, then I would just recommend, creating your own little escrow account.
And do a quarterly withhold.
And do a quarterly withholding if you are seeing a substantial gain there. Or just do a little escrow account for yourself, and then you've accumulated the taxes that you're going to owe at the end of the year.
One thing I will recommend to you also is that if through your other, we'll call it your normal employment.
If you have W-2 employment where you're naturally having taxes withheld.
You could certainly increase your taxes there. That's an easy one. The other thing is that if you're not making as large of retirement plan contributions as you would like to,
that could help offset some taxes.
Right. Certainly you can do that, just increase your withholds at work. But that your current employer is probably going to be your fudge number. Is that a good
right.
place?
Your W-2 employer is going to be the fudge number.
So, and we're doing that. And frankly, when our clients are retired, we become the fudge number.
Right, but we always recommend, just as you've mentioned, Dad, which is consistency across all of your fixed income. So, for example, if you have a pension available to you, if you have Social Security available to you, you're going to want to equally withhold from those places to try and attempt to get as close to the number as possible for yourself. If you know what your overall income is, you can take a quick glance at those income brackets that the IRS publishes every year. And if you fall in that 10 to 12% where we find most of our retired clients do, then you're going to want to withhold at least that 10 to 12% federally across all of your income sources. And then we just find that for most people it's easier to work with their advisor, especially if they're set up similarly to our broker-dealer, to slightly over withhold if necessary, if they find that they're owing taxes in a specific year, because you can fill out one form with a person that you know to have those taxes changed, as opposed to if you file the form with Social Security, it could take 2 to 3 months before that goes into effect, which might not help you. Pensions can take up to the same amount of time, so if you need an immediate impact, it's usually easier to kind of work with that advisor, your advisor.
Yeah, Chris, good call. Thank you.
And we have a texter that writes, I have over $40,000 in U.S. savings bonds. Is there any way I can convert these bonds to something else that won't affect me tax-wise for the interest I receive when I file my taxes?
It's another great one.
It's a very easy answer that our texter already knows.
No. Well, you could do things.
No, you can't. You can't do anything.
Well, you could do other things that might offset the taxes, but not directly. For example, if you are still employed or you have any earned income, you could contribute to a retirement account. You could contribute to your HSA, your health savings account, if you have access to that, to help offset some of those taxes. But there's nothing you can directly do or any vehicle that you can directly use to eliminate the taxes that are owed on those specific U.S. savings bonds.
Yes, and what I would also add here is one of the unique features of that happened with life insurance and also with annuity contracts is the ability to move assets from one contract to a new one. If there is any type of gains and not recognize those gains, they still become basis in a new contract. We call those Section 1035 tax-free exchanges.
They didn't do that for savings bonds.
They don't do that for savings bonds. That doesn't happen with mutual funds, sales of stocks or bonds, etc. So the insurance company has a good lobby. There's reasons that they do these type of things. And what I'd say to your texter is...
Our texter.
Sorry, Chucky.
No, that would be so nice.
Or, I mean, if you had if you had capital losses from stock or other securities, that could help offset it. It doesn't do it directly like offsetting a long-term capital gain with loss does, but you could try and play a few games. Nothing really after the fact, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, don't cry over spilled milk because you made dough. You made interest, which was nice.
It is nice. You know what it looks like? We're right up on our second break of our first hour.
And don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
What type of experience do you expect when choosing a real estate agent?
That's Rose, another satisfied client of Lauren Risley Realty.
My husband and I worked with another realty group for months with no success. We were hesitant to change realtors and had grown frustrated with the process in general. We ultimately decided to make the switch to Lauren Risley Realty and felt the difference immediately.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement. As promised, we have a few text questions to get to regarding Social Security, regarding taxes, but we have Frank Ellis, our Medicare coach, in the house this morning, so we're going to take a few minutes, talk about our smart choices about your health care, sponsored this week and every single week by our good friends at Aetna and Anthem of Missouri. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
I am doing very well. Thanks for having me on the show. Been a couple of weeks since I've been on, so I thought we'd talk about a topic that's going to actually kind of segue into the Social Security benefits, when you should come on to your Social Security benefits, as you mentioned earlier, and talking about when you actually need to come on to Medicare. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of talk and chatter out there, a lot of misconceptions out there about when you should take your Medicare, if you even have to take your Medicare, or if you can just kind of sit tight with what you have now. So we're here to clear the air and
give
tell
you some
about
confidence in your decisions. Don't listen to your friends
that's
unless
right.
they're making a food recommendation.
That's right. So this is going to bring up a story with Gary and Barb that came to the office a few weeks ago. Now, Gary and Barb, okay, they called about their Medicare benefits, set up an appointment, of course. Mm-hmm. We gave them the questionnaire, so, I was prepared for the appointment. So when I went into the appointment, I noticed on the questionnaire that Gary had put that his current coverage was TRICARE for life.
Oh, great stuff.
Yeah, very good insurance coverage. And for folks that don't know, TRICARE for life is for your 20-year-plus veterans.
Active military service.
Active military. Very good insurance coverage. Pretty much covers folks from top to bottom. There are two levels of it, but very good insurance coverage nonetheless.
Great.
So Gary and Barb are on TRICARE for life, and Gary had mentioned that, like you said, he's been talking to a couple of buddies, and they were like, hey, Gary, you can keep your TRICARE for life. You don't have to get on to Medicare. Mm-hmm. Okay? And that's a big misconception with Medicare. A lot of the times is people say, hey, I already have something, so I don't really need to come on to Medicare. I can just stay with what I have.
Right.
So good thing that Gary and Barb actually came to the office and had this meeting, because they were actually in a position to where they would need to take that Medicare.
So if you have TRICARE for life, you still need your Medicare benefits?
At 65, correct.
All right.
Correct.
Perfect. So you're turning 65, you need to enroll in Medicare.
Exactly. So Gary and I went over pretty much the reasons why, he has that beautiful coverage of TRICARE, but why he would have to take Medicare. And I explained to both of them, because they kind of were confused about this, I explained to both of them that really there's only one particular group of people that don't have to come on to Medicare at age 65. Okay? And those people are the ones that are on your employee group health care plan with 20 or more employers.
Right. So they are still working. So, for example, if Barb was still working and Gary was not a military veteran, and Barb had health insurance coverage for both herself and Gary through her employer. She turned 65. That employer has more than 20 employees. They do not have to elect their Medicare benefits yet.
That's correct. So think of it like this. So if you work for a company, again, with 20 or more employees, so let's just say you work for Bayer, or let's just say you work for Boeing or something like that. You're going to be able to, you and your spouse, if your spouse is on your coverage, you're going to be able to just stay on your employer's group coverage.
Right.
You don't have to come on to Medicare, okay? You can elect Part A of Medicare, because A is free, okay? But you don't have to get on Medicare. And the good thing about it is whenever you do retire, you're going to get a free chance to come on to Medicare with no sort of pre-existing conditions.
No penalties.
No penalties, no nothing.
They
So
call
it's
that
gonna
a
be-
special election, right?
That's correct. That's called your special election, is whenever you have that employer's coverage and you're over the age of 65 and you decide that you're ready to retire and you get on to Medicare. So really that's the only group of people that we're talking about that are really safe from
penalties, late enrollments. So that
Mhm.
means if you are flying fancy free and have no coverage when you turn 65, you need to elect Medicare.
Absolutely.
If you have an individual policy, even if it's through the Affordable Care Act, you should and want to elect Medicare. If you work for an employer that has less than 20 employees, you want to at least elect Medicare. You may decide to keep your employer's plan to supplement Medicare, but you need to elect Medicare.
That's correct.
Am I missing any other groups of people that you can think of that needs to elect? If you have TRICARE for life and you're turning
TRICARE for life,
65,
that's right.
like Gary, you need to elect Medicare.
That's right. Another big one, another big misconception is COBRA.
Yes, that's a great point. If you are turning 65 and on COBRA, this is going to be the greatest day ever for you because you get to drop your COBRA and take Medicare.
And most people really want to drop that COBRA because that comes with high deductibles, that comes with high monthly premiums that you're paying these insurance companies. So Medicare is going to work out a lot better.
In most cases.
In most cases. So there are cases where you would have to stay on your COBRA, for instance, if you haven't turned 65 yet.
Right.
So if you retired a little bit early, you're 64 and let's say, with 3 months left and you retired at 64 and 9 months, and you got 3 months until you turn 65, well, you're probably going to want to stay on that COBRA for 3 months.
And then drop it, elect your Medicare benefits.
Correct, and then drop it. So really the non-qualifiable folks out there are going to be, like you said, the folks that are on the TRICARE, the folks that are on the Affordable Care Act, folks that have COBRA, and then any sort of retiree plan, so maybe even like a union plan. You're going to want to double check with a broker like me on whether or not that is qualifiable coverage through Medicare.
And most of the time, if you're on a retiree plan, they may continue to carry you, but they will even request that you elect your Medicare benefits in order to retain your retiree benefits because they want Medicare to chip in.
That's right. So really you're going to want to talk to, like I said, someone like me to make sure, because the main rule that we have to follow here is their coverage. Once you turn 65, okay, your coverage has to be equal or better than Medicare in order to come on to Medicare, in order to keep what you currently have.
And Medicare gets to decide that.
That's right. That's right. I wonder what the percentages of companies' insurance programs and policies they actually accept versus what they don't accept. But I'll have that information. Just tell me, what you're on, whether it's an employee group health plan or whether it's, 19 or less employees. And we'll be able to determine, yes, you need to come on to Medicare so that we can avoid any other penalty in the future, or you're fine with just where you are.
So you let Gary and Barb know that thank goodness you came in to chat. You both need to elect your Medicare benefits. How do they elect Medicare benefits?
Yeah, so there are several different options that folks have to enroll into Medicare. The first question that I always ask folks is something that you all were talking about earlier, and that is, are you drawing those Social Security benefits? If you are drawing those Social Security benefits, then you will be automatically enrolled into Medicare once you turn 65.
So if you elected pre-65 years old for your Social Security benefits, they're going to automatically send a card in the mail to you that has both your A and B benefits when you turn 65. If you elected your Social Security benefits after 65, but you received the card and then rejected the Medicare Part B because you didn't want Medicare at that time, but you wanted Social Security, you still have to go through a process to elect your Part B. Is that correct?
That is correct. And so for Part B, okay, we have a lot of different options. So let's just say you took your Part A.
Okay.
You're 65. You're wanting to get on to Medicare, or not Medicare. You want to stay with what you have, your employer's coverage. You paid your Medicare taxes your whole life, so you're going to take your Part A for free.
Right.
Because they give that to you for free. So for your Part B, you would get a special enrollment period.
Mhm.
And the way you would enroll in that is several different options. You can do a self-enrollment, which would just be creating an SSA.gov account online. And typically that's when you're going to see the fastest processing times anyway, is whenever you do a self-enrollment. The other way that you can enroll and actually go in office to your local branch and set up an appointment,
Mhm.
or you can do the dreadful calling Social Security and waiting for 45 minutes to set up an appointment to 2 hours. Yeah, 45 minutes to 2 hours on hold. And even if you get someone. So I think it's always nice to go to the branch.
If you're doing the self-enrollment and you are using the special election period, so you've opted to go online and enroll for your Medicare Part B, you're still going to have to turn in that request for employment information document either by uploading it or later faxing it in. You probably want to upload it with the enrollment, if I'm not mistaken, so they see everything together.
That's correct, because that one does require a little bit additional paperwork, and that is just a request for employer's information, to where your HR department actually just fills out the time frame that you've had credible insurance coverage with them.
But for Gary and Barb, since they're both turning 65 in the next few months, and they haven't done anything yet, they can do they can do the self-enrollment, which is they have to go separately online to create separate socialsecurity.gov accounts, enroll. They don't have any extra paperwork to fill out because they're using that initial election period.
That's correct. So they will just either, and that's why I ask them, on the front end, are you drawing those Social Security benefits to let them know, if they are, they don't need to do anything, but if they are not, then they would have to enroll online. That'd be the fastest way. Another thing about enrollment that I'll mention is when folks are doing, this enrollment stuff online, a lot of the times the website is kind of kicking them out and shooting them what's called an activation code. So for folks that are turning 65 right now and they're going through the process and they're, trying to enroll online, if you get an activation code, you didn't do anything wrong. All that means is that Social Security is sending you a 4 to 8 digit random series of letters and numbers that you will use to log back in. And typically they get that within about 5 to 10 business days in the mail.
And that is for their protection. They may have had some sort of identity theft or something going on. So there's now a double check on their identity.
That's right.
Gotcha.
That's right. There could be multiple accounts set up somehow. So that's exactly right. Multiple emails. So that's exactly right.
All right. And so after you chatted with Gary and Barb about having to enroll in their Medicare benefits, also knowing that Gary's got TRICARE for Life, what was the next step in your conversation with them?
So the next step was, what do we need to do after he and she have been enrolled in Medicare? What are his next steps? So part of the process that we do, is not only enrolling you into Medicare, but also being your Medicare broker for your supplements that you get through Medicare. So the other part of the process, after we, explain to Gary and Barb that, you have this awesome insurance, but you're still coming on to Medicare. The other part of that is, what plan do we want to supplement alongside of that Medicare?
Right.
So we talked about several different options from traditional Medicare. Those are the plans where you make a monthly premium directly to an insurance company. And then the Medicare Advantage plans. Those are the plans that you don't pay anything monthly for. You just pay as you go. And they have a lot of additional great benefits inside of them.
And I think the cool thing is, especially about the TRICARE for Life enrollees, you can use your TRICARE for Life as a supplement to your Medicare benefits, but then you can couple that with a Medicare Advantage plan that has no premium. And TRICARE for Life gives you a lot of great medical and prescription drug benefits, but you can use your Medicare Advantage plan to get access to all those other great benefits that are available to you depending upon which plan you choose, right?
That's right. And that's part of the discussion that we had with Gary and Barb is, hey, listen, your coverage is absolutely fantastic. You're not really, losing the best part of your TRICARE benefit, and that's your drug coverage.
Right.
They're going to continue to pay for those drugs for you because it is just an incredible program. And then you're going to get a Medicare Advantage plan that you're not going to have to pay an insurance company for. So essentially, you're getting a free plan with a lot of additional benefits inside of them to supplement that TRICARE for Life. So it kind of works out a lot better.
And let's just say, you have an enrollee that has TRICARE for Life and you've added a Medicare Advantage plan. Do they have access to VA doctors, but they also have access to any doctor in the network that they chose?
That's right. And whether or not, it's an HMO, typically for folks with TRICARE for Life, they like to do PPOs. So really, we talk about the HMO is only in network, but the PPO is in and out of network. So really they have access to pretty much any doctor they want.
So that's really cool because I know that unfortunately sometimes the VA has longer waiting times than people would like. Right. So that'll give you some alternative options without disturbing your TRICARE for Life benefits.
That's right.
Very, very cool. All right. Everyone listening, I know you have Medicare questions. Taxes are on your mind, but Medicare is always on your mind. So give us a call, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. I think we should give everyone a moment to think over those questions, send them in, give us a call. We'll have Frank hang out for a few minutes, and we'll take our first break of the hour. We'll be right back.
If you're turning 65 this year, you face one of the most critical choices for your retirement game plan, enrolling in Medicare Part B and choosing your Medicare supplement. I will help you safely navigate this process and find the health insurance plan that best works with your new Medicare coverage. Getting started is easy. Call me at 314-863-0008, 314-863-0008 to arrange for a free health insurance coaching session, or email me at aaron@jblfinancial.com.
Now is when Coventry turns confusion into clarity. Coventry Healthcare has got a simple approach to care. By listening to their members, Coventry can make plans that work harder for you and your budget. The result? They offer great service and clear costs. If you're looking for a plan that's more about you, give them a call at 1-855-338-9551, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's 1-855-338-9551. Now is the time to call Coventry Healthcare. Now is when a small change can make a big difference. If you're not happy with your current Medicare coverage, take a look at Coventry Healthcare. They have a wide range of plans with great service and clear costs, including medical and drug coverage in one simple plan. Just call 1-855-338-9551, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. That's 1-855-338-9551. Now's the time to call Coventry Healthcare.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time.
Let's
Then
talk
I
about
discovered
smart
that.
choices for your money. On the Big 550 KTRS, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Here on the Big 550 KTRS, it's 1022. Along with my incredible staff members, we also have one of our very favorites, fascinating, fabulous Frank.
Here to answer some more Medicare questions for you.
Exactly. Phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And our next texter writes, I'm turning 65 in June and will be leaving my company's health insurance plan. Does it make more sense to elect COBRA coverage after I leave or enroll in Medicare?
So that's a good question. I think we kind of touched base a little bit on this earlier, but we can do a little bit of deeper dive into it. So for folks that are on COBRA, okay, you're going to want to come on to Medicare as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
We're talking about with COBRA, we're talking about higher deductibles, we're talking about high monthly premiums, and you still have to pay co-pays at the doctor or hospital.
And also, another really important thing to keep in mind here is if you are turning 65 on COBRA or considering electing COBRA, like our texter wrote, this is not considered qualified coverage in terms of Medicare.
So even though it seems like it makes no sense because your employer plan was considered qualified coverage, but when you flip over to COBRA, it's no longer considered qualified. So if you don't elect your Medicare benefits, you are going to be one of the people that accrues a penalty against them and has delays in terms of enrollment because you're not going to get a special election into Medicare. Medicare is going to say you should have enrolled when you turned 65 if you were using COBRA.
That's correct. And another kind of part about that is COBRA is like a last minute, last resort sort of insurance coverage. So it's like if you turn 63 and you retire and you're going to be, you need 2 years of coverage. So, 18 months of COBRA until you turn 65. That's kind of how you want to use COBRA. You don't want to use COBRA on you're getting ready to turn 65 and you take COBRA instead of just get on the Medicare. So very good. Very good question.
Next question is similar. I'm an independent contractor, will be working full-time after age 65, currently on Affordable Care Act coverage. Do I need to stay on that or get on Medicare?
So for the ACA, you'll probably want to go ahead and get on Medicare. So you can actually keep the ACA, but the thing about it is you're going to lose all of your benefits through the ACA.
So you don't want to stay.
So it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
And not only that, when you sit down and do a comparison or you give someone like Frank a call to discuss your ACA benefits versus what a Medicare is going to be able to provide to you, better benefits, much larger networks, better access, you get extra benefits that you do not get through the Affordable Care Act. You're not even going to want to keep, even if you're getting a subsidy from the Affordable Care Act, it is highly unlikely that you would even consider keeping your Affordable Care Act benefits, right?
That's right.
So give Frank a call, 314-863-0008, or send him an email, Franklin, FRANKLIN, at jblfinancial.com. We'll send out a medical questionnaire to you that we just need back 48 hours in advance of your appointment. Just ask for your physicians, your prescriptions, and it also asks what your current coverage is, so Frank might be able to take a peek at it if it's an Affordable Care Act plan, and he'd be able to say, hey, this is what you're doing now. This is what you are going to be eligible for. You've waited all this time to turn 65. It's a great birthday present.
That's right. Happy birthday.
All right, Frank. Well, we really appreciate you coming in this morning. Thank you for spending a half an hour with us.
Very good.
If anyone has any more questions, please email Frank, Franklin at jblfinancial.com. He will be happy to answer them for you. Or if you didn't catch that that email address, log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. Click on the Contact Us section. Any Medicare question, we get right over to Frank to answer for you, and he'll be happy to help you out.
Absolutely. Always happy to help. Thank you, guys.
Thank you this morning, Frank.
Have a safe drive home.
And you know what? We have a question from a texter who's been waiting 1 week and 1 hour for an answer, so I think we got to get to it. Last week, we had a great text question that we did not even have the answer to, which was, if I elect my Social Security benefits and then become eligible for Social Security disability, what happens? I found out what happens.
Well, lay it upon us.
You got to call Social Security. So there are people that are eligible. Let's say you were 62 years old and decided to elect your Social Security benefits, but you were still working part-time or something along those lines. And you become disabled, or you're not working and you just become disabled and you are qualified disabled through Social Security, which means you can perform no job, unfortunately not just your own. So the threshold is a little higher. Social Security may flip over your benefit to Social Security disability, which means that technically you might be eligible for a higher benefit for a certain amount of time. Now, from my research and conversations, didn't remain clear what happens after you turn normal retirement age. Do you drop back down to the lower benefit, which is probably likely. So you do want to give Social Security a call to get clarity on the whole process if you're eligible to claim that disability benefit, and then what happens when you reach your full your normal retirement age with Social Security, because you just want to be prepared for cash flow.
Yeah, my understanding in the past was that if you became disabled and were certified by Social Security to be eligible for SSDI, you would be receiving your normal retirement age benefit.
Right, but you're
and then and then what happens is when you become SSI, Social Security income eligible, you just switch over. There's no change in the dollar amount.
Sure, but you're leaving out the part where this individual already elected Social Security benefits, then became Social Security eligible for Social Security disability income.
So we don't know if they step up and then step back. Is that
correct? That's the only piece that I did not have 100% clear on. So I would feel most comfortable, Texter, if you called Social Security to get that final piece of clarity, especially because not everyone is eligible to even switch over from Social Security to Social Security disability. So you want to make sure that you get that clarity first, and then you'll have long-term clarity in your cash flow to ask them, well, what happens when I reach normal retirement age? Does my benefit drop back down, or do I get to maintain my disability benefit for life?
Sounds good. It's 10:30.
It is indeed.
Is it time?
For what?
For another break?
So we got plenty of time.
Well, then
they don't want to hear commercials. They want to hear you.
Sounds good to me. Well, I love that idea, and I know your mom always loves to hear from you. So while we're waiting for your calls at 314-931-5877 and your text messages at 84126. Text line's been hot today. We appreciate that.
It's great stuff.
I'd like to go to just a normal coaching session that I had the other day.
You did?
Yes, I did. And in the same, in that light, I always get asked the same question. Can I retire? Do I have enough? Have I done it? Can I do it this summer? So let's talk a little bit about John. John's 65 years old. He works for a large chemical and fertilizer company in Creve Coeur.
It had a different name before.
Right. Now they look like a big aspirin bottle thing. But and his wife is Judy. She's 64. Also, she was an administrative assistant for many years, but is currently, like your mother, the chief mom officer, chief household operations officer. They have about $1.2 million in assets, which is cool, of which most of those retirement assets and about $140,000 in savings.
Are they rock stars?
Well, we'll find out very soon. After in our discussions, they told me that their current net after-tax spending is approximately $5,500 a month. And again, I queried them about this to make sure that it not only included their fixed spending, but
some
also fun, discretionary spending.
Even food.
Exactly, and food. So starting from that number, we always increase it by 20%.
For taxes.
Because they are residents of Missouri, so 15 for federal, 5 for state, which meant that their pre-tax goal was approximately $6,600 a month. Paul's normal retirement...
You mean John. Unless Judy got a boyfriend.
Well, it could be a cousin, too. So so John's normal retirement benefit is going to be $2,800 a month. Judy, his spouse, will be half of that if she waits until her normal retirement age, because her Social Security benefit was less than half of John's.
Got ya.
And we know that she doesn't actually get that full half unless John elects his benefit.
And
she is normal retirement age and electing her benefit.
Right.
Which is different. So putting those numbers together, we found that their income goal is $6,600. Their cash flow is basically $4,200 per month, and so they're really short about $2,400 a month at this point.
Okay.
If that's the case, we know that they're going to be short about $26,000 a year, and if we back that up to find out how much capital do they need to at a 4% prudent withdrawal rate to make that work, I like to call that the milk money. That capital is almost $700,000. So we know that they've got $1.2 million of retirement assets, a little bit in savings. So it sounds like they're rock stars. Wee-hee! But
we got to get to we got a couple of years to go, right, before they get to the Social Security benefits?
Absolutely, because we assumed that was really the first analysis was done when, I like to say, the faucets are on. Well, they're off right now. And we know for the next 2 years until John is eligible for his normal retirement benefit, they're going to need the full $6,600 a month over basically times 12 months, times 2 years, or about $158,400.
So we're going to have to replace 100% of John and Judy's income from the time they retire till John is eligible for his Social Security benefit. Then we can start backing that off based on his benefit and only replacing their deficit that we figured was $2,400 a month, plus Judy's Social Security, which is another $1,400 a month.
So we need to, because again, she's a year younger, we need to wait until we have to add that 1 year in, which is approximately $16,800. So the total capital that they need,
assuming no growth,
over and above the milk money,
mm-hmm.
is about $175,000. So you add those two numbers together, we're looking at about $875,000 of assets
necessary.
They have $1.2 million. Woo-hoo!
Rock stars.
Rock stars. This is great.
Exactly. And I think what was fun for them is that we were able to give them some confirmation. Because John had thought, I think we're there. And most of the folks that come to visit with us really, they've done the numbers in their mind. They've listened to the show for a while. They understand how we're doing the algebra. They're doing the algebra in their mind. But they needed confirmation. And that was important. And what confirmation for them gave them was choices.
Right.
Can you retire this summer? The answer is, if you want to, yeah.
Do I have to take my Social Security benefit in order to do that?
No.
Not necessarily.
That's right. And that also opened other scenarios since we knew they were rock stars.
Right.
If they decide they want to take their Social Security early so they don't have to think about this drawdown that's going to happen of $158,000. If they were to take it early, we would reduce that drawdown. If that would make them feel more comfortable, that's fine. Is there a wrong decision there? The answer is no. Because truthfully, taking early versus taking later really comes out to be a factor of longevity.
Right.
And none of us know how long we're going to make it. And if you don't make it to age 84, it didn't make sense to put it off.
Right.
I mean, that's really what the bottom line comes down to. It never makes sense to put it off. So is 64 different than 65? Well, the answer is yeah.
By 8%.
Not only that, but also it's based on earnings.
Sure.
If they may come to a decision where they say, hey, listen, I've made X amount during the year. I'm at that 19.8. I can jump off, right? I like my Social Security, not have a problem.
Right.
So with more information, more options, and lots of fun, and naturally we're looking forward to continuing to assist John and Judy on their retirement game plan, on their path. But it's fun to smile.
And also the great thing about Social Security planning is this is something that can be reevaluated on a regular basis from the day you turn 62 until the day you turn 70, when 62 you're eligible and 70 you're forced to take it, that depending upon circumstances, we can make adjustments. For example, right now, based on John and Judy's current income needs, they may decide we can wait to take our Social Security benefit. We like the idea that we have the guaranteed growth of 8% on both of our benefits, and we have the excess cash flow to be able to support that lack of income from John retiring. But if a year into John's retirement they find their dream retirement home that adds an additional mortgage, or they decide that they would like to help financially their children or grandchildren in some way that creates a new liability for them, we always have the opportunity to adjust the game plan, maybe take that Social Security benefit early to cover over additional cash flow needs. So the great thing about Social Security is it's a decision that you can make every day. The benefit will start within 3 months of that decision. So although we have the game plan set up, the great thing about a game plan is we have the path we can always adjust.
And certainly sort of adding to that a little bit, since we've determined that these folks are rock stars, which means they have excess capital over there to support their income needs, this does give them not only the flexibility to determine when they take Social Security, but also gives them a little flexibility in the future in terms of withdrawals.
Right.
Do we make extraordinary withdrawals? The question that's asked in many, many forms that we receive as advisors is this spending decision going to tip the apple cart over?
Right.
And they know they've got a little bit of room. Also, if in fact their accounts do grow in the future due to positive returns, we're also in a situation there where we're able to bank those dollars for future consumption purposes. So it's fun. It's fun. Figuring out this algebra problem for them based on their circumstances, and then laying the template in front of them, actually doing it on our 6x8 foot whiteboard in front of them, electronic one that is, gave them clarity and frankly brought a lot of smiles to their faces, and we love that. We love when folks come and smile.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Let's get to a few text questions before we take our final break of the hour.
And we've got one Social Security question, and the texter writes, can I withdraw my Social Security retirement claim and reapply later to increase my benefit amount?
One time in the first year that you elect your benefit, however, there's a catch, you got to pay it all back. So,
well, that's how you get a do-over.
Right. So you have so this law changed over 10 years ago, which was you are allowed one do-over with Social Security, and it must be taken in the first year that you've elected your benefit. So let's use the example that John elects his Social Security benefit at 63 years old because he doesn't think he's going to go back to work. But then someone makes him an offer that he doesn't want to refuse, and he wants to go back to work, so he no longer needs his Social Security benefit. If he pays back everything that Social Security has paid to him within that year,
no interest or anything, just
straight benefit, but plus taxes withheld and everything, you got to come up with all the money to pay it back. Then Social Security will consider that first election having never happened. His benefit will be intact and accruing as if he had never elected at 63. And then if he decides to retire 2-3 years later, he'll get the accrual of those 2 or 3 years additional increases of the 8% annually. He can then elect his benefit. But again, this is a one-time first-year opportunity. Otherwise, you're stuck.
And that first year is incidental to his age. In other words, like in your example, he's doing this at 63. If he did this at 66 or 67, would he still have that
yes.
privilege?
It's whenever the first time you elect in the first year, you could pay it back if you have the cash and desire and reason for wanting to then redelay your benefit.
Very cool.
That was a very good text question. Do we have any other ones at this particular moment? Again, our text line's open. We'd love to hear from you, 84126 or 314-931-5877. We'd love to hear your voice.
It's momentarily dormant. Do we want to go to our second break of the hour?
Let's do it. We'll be right back.
Don't touch that dial.
Now is when Coventry turns confusion into clarity. Coventry Healthcare has got a simple approach to care. By listening to their members, Coventry can make plans that work harder for you and your budget. The result? They offer great service and clear costs. If you're looking for a plan that's more about you, give them a call at 1-855-338-9551, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's 1-855-338-9551. Now is the time to call Coventry Healthcare.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now is when a small change can make a big difference. If you're not happy with your current Medicare coverage, take a look at Coventry Healthcare. They have a wide range of plans with great service and clear costs, including medical and drug coverage in one simple plan. Just call 1-855-338-9551, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. That's 1-855-338-9551. Now's the time to call Coventry Healthcare.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Yes, we're back here on the Big 550 KTRS. It's 10:44. Still time for your calls and texts. 314-931-5877 and 84126 from the text line.
And it looks like we have a caller on the line. John, good morning.
Good morning. I have a question about Medicare. I'm going to turn 65 in January. I work full-time, have a platinum insurance plan. If I can working, do I need to still register for Medicare?
John, does your employer have more than 20 employees?
Yes.
Then no. Congratulations. You get to keep your platinum insurance for as long as you keep working. When you decide to hang it up, you'll lose your employer-based coverage, and that will give you what's called a special election to elect your Medicare benefits. And that election will look exactly like your initial election, which means there will be no penalties assessed against you. You'll have no medical underwriting. You'll have no medical questions to deal with. You'll get to pick any option you like, whether it's a supplement or a Medicare Advantage to couple with your Medicare coverage. You'll just have one extra step, which is you're going to provide a document to Medicare that is called the Request for Employment Information. And what that's going to do is it's going to tell Medicare that you were on your employer-based coverage from the day you turned 65 until the day you retired, and that's going to waive that penalty for you and open up all your options.
Great answer. So my wife is also on my coverage. She will turn 65 next year. Would that be a life event, changing event that would be for her as well?
She gets the same exact rules, and I promise we'll never tell her that you told everyone how old she is on the radio.
Okay, last question if you got a minute.
Absolutely.
I have not signed up for Social Security since I'm working full-time, even though I'm 64. Should I wait until I'm 67, even if I retire at 66?
Well, I guess that really depends on your financial situation. If you have the income or the capital to support waiting that time between 66 and 67 to elect your Social Security benefit, that might be something that you consider because you'll get the full Social Security benefit available to you. You'll also want to factor in your wife's Social Security benefit. If she's taking her own, yours could be independent, but if she's looking at taking a spousal benefit from you, you would have to actually be receiving your benefit in order for your wife to have access to 50% of your benefit.
Okay. Great answer. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I was just going to, just to add one other thing there, which is when our caller decides to elect his Medicare coverage, if he isn't currently enrolled in Social Security benefits, what will happen is that he'll have to pay for those benefits on a quarterly basis until he gets his Social Security benefit, in which case then the government will
automatically take their money.
Right, because they don't trust you.
Yes, that is accurate.
Good. Are we ready to go on to our last subject of the day here before we're taking any other texts? Or are you scanning the globe?
I'm scanning.
Okay. Well, that sounds fine. I received an email the other day from one of our clients who also obviously is a listener. And he said, Jeff, I'm getting ready to make a decision about taking my pension benefit in a lump sum versus taking an annuity payout benefit. I know you've done a discussion on this in the past. Would you mind doing it on the radio for me this week? And the answer is, of course, we'd be happy to do that. I think what's important is that I like to kind of use a visual of a lake, okay? And just assume that there's a lake and that you are one of or a pond, and you are one of the fish in the pond, being a member of a pension plan. So the pond is large. You happen to swim in a small piece of it. You own a piece of it. That piece that you own, that pension benefit is usually defined as a percentage of your pay times the number of years of service. And you have a decision. When you are ready to leave, jump out of that pond, or get hooked out, whichever it would be, you get to make a decision about whether or not you want to receive a lump sum in many cases, or you're going to take a pension benefit. If you're married, then you'll be required to take a joint survivor benefit, unless, of course, your spouse is willing to sign off on it, which she probably, or he, may not want to do except for with blood. Well, it's just true. I mean, why give up a benefit that you've earned? So, and generally, the payments from most pension plans, not all of them, but most pension plans, they're fixed. They don't have cost of adjustment riders, they're not going to increase, etc. And also, payments end at the death of the participant, unless they elect a joint survivor situation, in which case then it would die at the or the surviving spouse's benefit. Big deal, though, is that when the pension benefits end, the capital's gone. So, I think what it really comes down to when we're looking at should I take a pension benefit as compared to should I take a annuity, i.e. a fixed income stream. There's criteria here. Number one is that, and maybe this is one of the big ones, which is, do I want the opportunity or the chance to pass the capital, the lump sum, on to my family members?
Mm-hmm.
If that's an important thing to you, then you're not looking at the pension stream because it could obviously end.
It will end
it does
when you pass away.
The other thing that's extremely important, and one it can be delicate to talk about, but it has to be considered, is health.
Right, what's your longevity?
Exactly, and or your spouse's longevity.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows what the day is, but in many cases, if you're healthy,
mm-hmm. then
taking a pension benefit is a cool idea. If you're healthy, taking a lump sum is a cool idea, too, because you'll be around longer and maybe have the opportunity to make it grow.
What if you kind of want the best of both worlds?
Well, the best of both worlds sometimes is not attainable. But I will say that having the opportunity to make a decision about what the actual payout is, as compared to being locked in and confined to the payout that the plan is providing you,
mm-hmm.
Can be valuable on a lot of levels. We've had clients in the past that have retired from large companies
mm-hmm.
That they've worked at for a long time, and they have this large pension benefit stream that they have. Well, the problem is that for them is that in many cases they don't need all the income.
Right.
Therefore, they're paying taxes on the income. And therefore, what they're stuck doing is they're keeping the extra money. Maybe they're accumulating it after tax, but they're obviously doing it slowly because the money isn't going to be paid out for
the course of their life,
which could be 10 years, 15, 20, 30 years. Taking a lump sum then put them in a position where they could recreate
mm-hmm.
a pension benefit that matched exactly the income stream that they require.
They can have it their way, not the way the
pension plan wants to give it to them.
Yeah,
right.
It's supposedly, it's like Burger King, except that the hamburgers are good because they're yours.
I have one follow-up question to this, which I've heard pretty frequently when people are making the determination between a lump sum and the annuity benefit. What happens if you do not have a large amount of faith in the company that you were previously working for?
Well, the beauty of this is that the money that you're receiving is
mm-hmm.
not directly from the company. It's actually from a trust. And if it's a public corporation, you're not a member of a union, which
mm-hmm.
your union plans are a little different. And they're obviously a little more subject to volatility, as we've read over the years. There is PBGC, which is Public Benefit Guaranty Corporation, which provides minimum benefits
mm-hmm.
Out of your plan. But at the same time, your plan has to fall, and they have to follow certain minimum funding standards. Every plan is tested every single year by the Department of Labor.
And you actually get a booklet that points out.
Right. And so what happens is if they're underfunded They
get
have
notice.
They have to increase they're required to increase their funding to keep the plan solvent, because if they don't, if the plan becomes insolvent, the benefits aren't there. The PBGC, which again is another name for the taxpayers, that's us, okay, have to come in and subsidize up to a minimum benefit level.
So that means some people, if the plan becomes insolvent and is turned over to the PBCG, that they could see a benefit reduction.
Yes.
It won't be a complete elimination if it's a private company or a public company versus a union company.
And we've seen this significantly more times. It used to be, 20 years ago, it was the steel companies that were going bust. Now what we're seeing, unfortunately, we've seen the Teamster plans. Those are the ones recently that have been had an issue, and they still have issues, and some of them have gone to PBGC. So people are still getting a minimum benefit, but obviously not what they planned.
Okay.
So again, I would tell you that if your plan is, and you're not getting letters saying, "Oh my God, we're on the watch list," etc., you should be able to feel comfortable and reasonably assured that that benefit will continue. What you really need to do is determine, number one, is is the benefit okay? Is it too much? Do I want to repurpose it? Or number two, am I healthy enough to get it? And then three, and this is not an easy one, is it a good deal? And what I mean by that is that, we can take a look at what is the actual actuarial payout percentage.
How does a person calculate that?
Well, basically, what they do is they would take the 6% and divide it by the benefit,
and
that should give us a lump sum.
Okay.
We would compare that number to the lump sum being off, consider a neutral deal. Okay, so if your payout is greater than 6% and you're looking at a joint survivor option, it's a good deal, which means take the benefit. If it's not,
or that would be a factor in why you would take the benefit.
That's right. That would be a factor. If, in fact, it isn't a good deal, then that would certainly tilt the scales a little more towards taking a lump sum.
Right. Most of these decisions are not based on one of these factors. They're based on an accumulation of the factors.
Right. And something that, again, sort of as a consideration here, and we think about this all the time as advisors, and frankly, the plans do too, is that as interest rates rise, what occurs is that the dollar amount, the monthly benefit dollar amount that can be purchased also increases. So as interest rates were low, what happens is that plans are trying to buy us out.
Got ya.
Now, as they're rising, the answer is they don't have to, because they need less capital
to create the same benefits.
To support the same, because your benefit isn't increasing with interest rates; it's staying the same. The question is, how big of a pond or a little piece of that pond do you have? When interest rates were low, it was big. When
interest rates rise, it starts to get smaller. It doesn't change your benefit. It changes how the benefit is financed, essentially.
Yes, because really what an annuity is it's the present value of a stream of future payments that can be taken down to a simple dollar number. And that's what the pension does. So we're going to look at it from two sides. Number one is it a good deal? Do the economics make sense for you? Does having a pension benefit, adding to a fixed base on top of Social Security benefits, other things you might have, is that going to put you in a comfort zone? Or do we need to recreate a pension for you, which we do every day for folks? We call it a personal pension plan. But I hope that answered I'm hopeful that they answered my emailer's question.
We hope so, too, and maybe gives everyone else that might have access to a pension or a lump sum option a little food for thought. We do have a few more text questions on deck before we wrap up this. You know what? I think we're really close to the end, so what I would say is we got about a minute left. We'd like to thank everyone for tuning in this morning, for all of your text questions and all of your comments. Please keep them. And calls, of course. Keep them coming. You can always send us an email, Aaron@jblfinancial.com, Jeff@jblfinancial.com, or Robert@jblfinancial.com. You can also give our office a call, 314-863-0008. You can Chat with Kelly, our office manager. She'll connect you to one of us or set you up with a day and time to come in and chat. We'd love to see you, and we cannot wait to see you again next week. Everyone, have a great weekend.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Be listening next week at 9 for more straight talk on retirement with your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus, on the Big 550 KTR.